Mitt Romney and his supporters say his wealth is a sign of his success that will make him a great president. But at the same time, Romney has gone to great lengths to keep secret many important details about his wealth, including, as ABC News discovered, whether he uses tax loopholes available only to the super rich. To find answers, we followed the Romney Trail of Wealth to the Cayman Islands in the Caribbean, where he has millions of dollars of his personal wealth in corporations set up here. While some people come for the beautiful sea and white sand beaches, the Caymans are best known as one of the world's great tax havens, where secrecy is the rule.
If you have a Cayman corporation, you don't pay any tax to the Cayman government. And the Cayman Islands don't report the income that's made to the U.S. government.
Nothing in Romney's financial disclosure forms, required for all presidential candidates, reveals his connections to the Caymans. But listed under his investments are at least 12 separate funds with potentially as much as $30 million that we were able to track back to the islands. For example, the fund listed in tiny print as Bain Capital Fund 8, officially registered in the Caymans by Romney's former company, Bain Capital. In fact, official documents show Bain Capital has set up some 138 secretive offshore funds in the Caymans that are nothing more than a post office box. There are rows and rows of post office boxes here at the Central Postal Station in Grand Cayman for all the companies that come from overseas to take advantages of the tax haven here. This is the one used by Bain. This is their post office box, 908. Other than the box number, everything else about the Bain accounts is kept secret from outsiders. Can you confirm there are accounts here?
No, I can't at all.
As we found when we went to see Bain's registered agents who set up the accounts. You're familiar with Bain, and
I've heard of, obviously,
and because of Governor Romney's run for president now, we're all interested in why his company had accounts set up here.
Unfortunately, I couldn't comment at all on that.
You can't talk about it?
No, unfortunately not.
Nothing at all?
Nothing at all.
Nor will the people who get their mail at Grand Cayman Post Office Box 908, Bain Capital, confirm anything about the funds, what they own, who are the other investors. Tax lawyers and experts tell ABC News that companies like Bain set up their accounts here in the Caymans and in other tax havens, primarily to attract foreign investors who want to invest in U.S. companies without having to pay U.S. taxes. That's great for Bain and for the foreign investors, but not so great for the U.S. Treasury and American taxpayers.
Honest taxpayers are the losers because to the extent any of the investors in those funds are avoiding paying their taxes, whether U.S. or in some other country, the rest of the taxpayers make up the difference.
As for his own taxes, Romney says the Cayman accounts are taxed no differently than they would be in the U.S., without saying why he put his money there in the first place.
I can tell you we follow the tax laws, and if there's an opportunity to save taxes, we, like anybody else in this country, will follow that opportunity.
Health insurance.
As a candidate for Senate against Ted Kennedy in 1994, Romney demanded Kennedy make his tax returns public, asking what he had to hide. Now those same questions are being asked about him in this campaign.
Every candidate up there, they should put their taxes out, including Mitt.
The idea that you could run for president and not release your taxes is an absurdity.
And this week, Romney admitted his effective income tax rate is far below the 35% tax bracket for the wealthy.
Closer to the 15% rate.
Romney now says he may release his latest tax return in April, and it may be the only way for him to answer all the questions about his taxes and his offshore accounts.
His personal finances are a poster child of what's wrong with the American tax system. If he doesn't disclose that and we can't see it, whatever he says about tax is certainly quite suspect.
Romney's critics are already crying foul, saying he has to release more than just the latest tax return to give a full picture of his affairs.
The cameras were fixed on Mitt Romney. His campaign was hosting mega donors at private parties where the cameras were not allowed. Romney has raised hundreds of millions of dollars, but he won't release the names of his top supporters who bundle much of it for him. So ABC's chief investigative correspondent Brian Ross staked them out.
Under what was supposed to be a cloak of secrecy, the Romney campaign treated its top donors as political royalty with a week-long series of lavish parties and special events.
Billionaires giving unprecedented sums, and we have levels of secrecy never seen in the contemporary historic era.
Most of the big money Republicans watched the proceedings from the luxury suites reserved for them high above the floor. One of the few to actually show up on the floor was billionaire David Koch, a member of the New York delegation who reportedly pledged to spend millions of dollars to defeat Barack Obama.
It's important for the American public to know who's financing their conventions and who the candidates could be beholden to.
But when ABC News caught up with Koch away from the convention center, he didn't want to talk about why he gives so much money.
ABC News, Mr. Koch.
As part of the secret effort, the Romney campaign used a 150-foot yacht registered in the Grand Cayman Islands to host the most elite fundraisers, the Victory Council, those promising to raise $1 million or more. The campaign refuses to reveal the names of these people, as allowed under current law, making it hard to know what they might want from a Romney administration.
The Romney campaign is the first in many years to not release the names of their bundlers.
And as the Romney Victory Council members left the yacht, secrecy seemed to be the order of the day.
How much money have you pledged to raise for the Romney campaign?
I'm sorry, I don't really have the time.
What's your name, sir? You can't say your name?
No.
Are you embarrassed about being here? You won't give your name?
No, not at all.
What's
not
your
at
name?
all. I just got to run. Thank you.
Whoever they are and whatever they want, they are expected to help raise more than $800 million to elect Mitt Romney as president. Brian Ross, ABC News, Tampa.
And Brian Ross will be back on the money trail next week in Charlotte for the Democratic National Convention. Stay tuned.
It's a big night here in Charlotte, North Carolina. Parade of big names due to speak at the Democratic National Convention. But behind closed doors, there are legions of mega donors whose names you will not hear. They have raised millions for President Obama, and for some, that's been a gateway to perks, favors, and even important jobs. Here's ABC's chief investigative correspondent Brian Ross on the money trail again tonight.
Just like the Republicans, the Democrats in Charlotte are treating their big money people like political royalty.
They're the convention delegates, and then there's the elite.
This confidential campaign document lays out the perks for the super donors, the top package for those who raise more than $1 million. With access to places most delegates will never see, including this invitation-only concert last night by pop singer John Legend.
It's the top-rung players, and basically most of the delegates to the conventions and most of the American people are left out of this loop.
In addition to the perks, there are jobs for the biggest Obama fundraisers. From our money trail files from the 2008 convention in Denver, we found Alan Katz named ambassador to Portugal after raising $500,000 plus. Nicole Lamb Hale was another big Obama fundraiser 4 years ago.
How much money did you raise?
Oh, I can't disclose that. Why not?
It was between $200,000 and $500,000, and she was later appointed an assistant secretary of Congress. In 2008, fundraiser Steve Spinner also raised more than $500,000. His reward was a job at the Department of Energy, where he pushed for the controversial $535 million federal loan to the now bankrupt Solyndra Company, a loan never repaid. When we found Spinner being honored among the big donors again this year in Charlotte, he went out a side exit.
Cannot be following people.
A Democratic Party official blocked our camera crew from following.
Sorry, sir.
Yet another $500,000 fundraiser here this week, Chicago stockbroker Ross Fernando. He was named to the prestigious International Security Advisory Board, but resigned last year, shortly after ABC News asked about his qualifications to be on the board. It was not something Fernando wanted to talk about this week.
With ABC News. Yeah,
And we were ordered to stop asking questions of Fernando, leave the hotel, or face arrest.
Management, I think the property will be arrested.
I'll be arrested for asking questions of this man?
The Democrats like to say they're different than Republicans, more open about the money. But in fact, like the Republicans, the Democrats continue to keep secret the names of some of their biggest donors to outside advocacy groups. The head of one of those super funds told me he does just what Karl Rove does, Diana.
And you've been blocked in a lot of hotels in Tampa as well as Charlotte. Thanks so much, Brian, for standing watch over money and politics tonight.
outside these convention walls and at the Republican convention as well. Well, it's a swanky party circuit that caters only to the very wealthiest political donors. And ABC's Brian Ross takes us inside.
For both the Democrats and the Republicans, the conventions have been expensive and extravagant, with no sign of economic hard times in the settings of lavish parties and insider access for the highest bidders. Some of them very unhappy to see ABC News.
Warrior. With ABC News. Yeah, this is
the grossest we've seen until 2016.
The grossest.
Yeah.
And most of it is being paid for by the big corporations, unions, lobbyists, and the super rich, many of whom flew into Tampa and Charlotte in their private jets. These are the real VIPs at the conventions, according to someone who was once one of them, convicted lobbyist Jack Abramoff.
They're people who want something back. They're doing it because they have an agenda.
In Charlotte, where the corporate headquarters of the country's largest electric utility company, Duke Energy, dominates the skyline, the company's money is dominating the convention. Duke's CEO not only pledged to raise $47 million for the convention itself, but the company is also helping to pay for a series of lavish events all over town that most delegates will never see, including this invitation-only concert with pop singer John Legend. For all the swinging and swaying, there's much more to it.
It's really about having the ability to cozy up to people who are important to you and to your business.
In the case of Duke Energy's business, the company has received more than $200 million in federal energy grants and loans from the Obama administration and the recent approval of a major merger. But Duke Energy says that is in no way connected to the millions of dollars its CEO, Jim Rogers, pledged to raise for the Democrats, or the $100,000 he has given personally. It's about promoting its hometown, Charlotte, according to Duke Energy. When we went to the Duke corporate headquarters, where Rogers was hosting a private party, we were turned away, told our cameras represented a security threat.
No cameras were allowed here?
No.
Because?
It's just our policy for security reasons.
We received much the same treatment in Tampa from AT&T, which took over this restaurant directly across from the Republican Convention Forum for a week-long series of parties for top Republicans.
This is his private property.
Employees tried to hide the sign with the names of the honored public officials, and we were told to turn off our cameras or face arrest.
I'll get the police. Thank you.
For both parties, the intersection of money and power is a busy, often ugly place.
There's no shame in what they're doing. There's pride.
Harvard Law professor Lawrence Lessig is the author of Republic Lost: How Money Corrupts Congress.
As you raise money from the tiniest fraction of the 1%, our Congress becomes dependent upon them.
And so what's the effect then on policy?
Well, in 1,000 ways. Buried inside of bills, you begin to see policy shifting in a direction that makes sense from the perspective of the money, but doesn't make sense from the perspective of the people.
And both parties go to great lengths to treat the big money people like royalty, often with great secrecy. In Tampa, Republicans used this 150-foot yacht, registered in the Grand Cayman Islands, to honor the elite group of fundraisers who have brought in more than $1 million, known as the Romney Victory Council. The Romney campaign keeps their name secret, as allowed by federal law.
How much money have you pledged to raise for the Romney campaign?
I'm sorry, I don't really have the time.
And secrecy seemed to be the order of the day, making it hard to know what the big fundraisers might want for all their money if Romney wins.
What's your name, sir?
Can't
say
your
name?
No.
Are you embarrassed about being here? You won't give your name?
No, not at all.
What's
not
your
at
name?
all. I just got to run. Thank you.
After we posted his picture online, readers of ABCnews.com identified him as Ray Washburn, a wealthy Dallas businessman.
In America today, we have two elections. It's the money election and the general election. The only way you get to run in the general election is to do extremely well in the money election.
The super-rich Democrats can keep their names secret, too, if they give money to one of the newly formed super funds, outside advocacy groups, including one started by President Obama's former deputy press secretary, Bill Burton.
As soon as Karl Rove and the Koch brothers decide that they're going to disclose their donors, we'll do the exact same thing.
Finally, in addition to the perks and the access, the biggest fundraisers also know there are jobs to be had. Among the big Obama fundraisers here this week, Chicago stockbroker Ross Fernando, who raised $500,000. He was named to the prestigious International Security Advisory Board, but resigned last year, shortly after ABC News asked about his qualifications to be on the board. It was not something Fernando wanted to talk about.
Who are you? With ABC News. Yeah, this is...
And once again, we were ordered to turn off our cameras, stop asking questions, or face arrest.
Man invading the property will be arrested.
I'll be arrested for asking questions of this man?
Please leave.
The Supreme Court says all this spending is protected by the First Amendment as free speech. And while leaders in both parties acknowledge the system is out of control like an arms race, no one is willing to be the first one to stop and give the other side a competitive advantage, Terry.
That's great reporting, Brian, on one of the real stories going on here. Thanks very much.